I'm joined today by a man I can only describe as a legend. I think it's a word that's often overused, but I think in this case it's appropriate. So here I am with Dick Clegg, an MBE and an OBE, is that right, Dick?
Yeah. I had the MBE first with presented by the Queen, and then Prince Charles with the OBE, which was, I'm glad it was the two different people. But and then it's been good because we've had also a team invitation to the palace, which I think was fantastic for everybody. I remember we walked down the field outside, or the lawn outside to the pond at the bottom, and wanted to find out whether there were any bloodworm in that lake.
You never found out, though?
No, we never found out.
No, all got the scraping right.
That's it, no.
No. Obviously, you're long associated with Barnsley, and then with England. I'm assuming you're Barnsley born and Barnsley bred.
Yeah, 82 years ago next in May. Yes, that's me now.
Yeah.
But what happened with Barnsley is that I was my angling career started out as a specialist angler because I was a member of the Northern Specimen group, who then through Eric Hodgson, who was the secretary, he created the National Association of Specimen Groups, which has changed its name now to something else. I forget now.
Yes.
So I was a founder member of I was a member when it was first founded in God knows how long ago.
Yeah.
Must have been the 70s, was it? Something like that.
It became the Specialist Anglers Alliance, and then I think eventually it became part of Angling Trust in 2000. And
did they join that?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Mike Healing was the last leader, and they were one of the 5 to join.
Oh, right. Fair enough. Yeah.
Oh, that surprised me. I imagine you'd be. I always imagined you'd be a match angler from.
No. I started out. Listen, you do that, don't you, when you're a kid? When you're sort of teenager, I was that you follow your parents, and my father was a club angler.
Yeah.
And so I went on obviously 1 or 2 matches with him. But then when I got to my late teens, I started going up North Yorkshire and fishing all the ooze, the swale, the nid, etc., the wharf. And I got tied up then with Don Savage, Ron Clay, who was a particularly influential part of my early career. He's about the same age as me, Ron. But there was quite a few people who, Tag Barnes was one of the Northern Specimen specialist anglers. So I spent quite a lot of time in the Dales, and also in the winter going into Lincolnshire and Horsemere at pike fishing, etc. And that's how I started. And it wasn't until I bought a fishing tackle shop, which was rather foolish of me, because I had a good position I was an engineer working for a company in Sheffield. And I bought a fishing tackle shop, which my brother and I started with. And it was from that we started going basically match fishing, because most of the customers, especially in Sheffield, they would have been match anglers anyway.
Yes, and in those days they would have been travelling to the Witham and to the Fens.
Exactly.
So we're talking the 1960s here.
I suppose it would be. Yeah, it would be, because the first national I fished was what you'll know,
1970.
70. Yeah.
So, talking about your first national, was it a question of just sort of putting your name down and you were in, like it is these days, or did you have to sort of fish a series of qualifiers?
Well, there were no qualifiers, but I can't remember. I'm not sure whether Joe Waldron was our manager in Sheffield and District, but I know he had the best weight when we fished because we fished on the middle level, but I was selected, and I think I probably just snuck in at the time, because I hadn't been match fishing that long. I've had a few successes, and I suppose that was it. And it was okay. I mean, we finished 3rd with the bronze medal. I've still got that, and it's just, the medals then are better than they are now. They're much more, they look much nicer than they are now, but more expensive, I'm sure.
Indeed. And so, before long, you'd had some involvement with Barnsley. How did that come about?
Well, I had a fishing shop in Barnsley also. But I'd been a member, and I was fishing Barnsley matches as well, and I started running open matches, midweek open matches at Barnsley. But we had my brother and I had got a shop in Barnsley by this time as well, and the first Barnsley team meeting basically was Barnsley and District was for us to go on the middle level in the second division. It was the first year of the second division when it was formed with the NFA. And did we finish in the frame? I can't remember whether it was second or third or fourth or something anyway, because I know that I think Coleshill won it, but yeah, it was good. And Freddie Foster was captain at the time, who was the number one bream angler in the country, and Blackie Frost and one or two others that were with him, and I managed to get into that team, and that's how it started basically. Yeah, my national championships sequence then followed on through Barnsley rather than Sheffield and District.
Yeah, and of course success came with a winning team in 1979.
Yeah.
What can you remember about that match?
Well, I can't remember a great deal about it, but I can't. I mean, the thing is that I don't think I was captain at the time. I think that would have been Tom Pickering in '79. You tell me where it was.
It was on the Cammon.
On the Cammon, yeah, and Tom Pickering was captain at the time, I'm sure.
And I think he blanked, Tom, didn't he, in that national?
I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. I can't remember whether I was captain or Tom was captain, but I just feel it was Tom, because I'd just gone through a period there of being captain. I'm not sure, no. John. I can't remember, to be honest.
No.
It's too long ago for me to remember.
You wouldn't, anyway. I said, well,
are we on here? Yes.
Yeah, it'll be on here, yeah. Yeah, you would.
Well, I'm not sure whether that was. It may well have been, but I am not 100% certain.
Yeah, it was a disastrous match. There was lots of blanks.
Yes, there were, weren't there?
Particularly on the Elius. The cam wasn't too bad, relatively.
Yeah.
And I think that Barnsley avoided.
They
had one with Tommy, but
right.
Everybody else caught, and it was enough to win. And then,
well, by this time it must have been, because I think that a few years later is when I nominated, didn't it? 3 or 4 years later, when I nominated for the England manager's job.
Yeah.
Yeah. But part of the setup with Barnsley and the Barnsley Blacks as such, it was Barnsley and District, but the Barnsley Blacks team started with the name was
the name
brought.
Of Barnsley Blacks has always interested me. I assume it's got something to do with the coal mine.
Well, it's not. No, it's not.
No.
The best person to ask for it is Dennis White, isn't it? Because Dennis was the instigator. What happened was Dennis was fishing with Alan Sefton, Harry Jackson, and I think it might have been Tony Wilson. I'm not sure. I don't think it was Tom Pickering. I think it was Tony Wilson, and it was a 4-man team on the at Dunham on the river, and they couldn't find a name for the team, and we always had a problem with Lancashire anglers coming across with casters, because their casters were always proper casters, and ours were, according to what they were saying, were blackfly.
Right.
And the black name, I'm sure, came from that. We'll call ourselves the Barnsley Blacks, because that's what, and Harry Jackson, who was from Stockport, he was part of the team. But then when we started fishing the Winter League series, it was basically that black was added to the team, which was outside of the Barnsley and District team for the Nationals. And so we fished that series through the 3 counties and the Trent Winter League and all that. It was the Barnsley Blacks. So that's how the Barnsley Blacks started. And it was at the time, like in '83, when they decided that they would, at the end of '83, that the NFA would change well, not change, but ask for nominations for position as manager for the World team.
Yeah, is that something you'd been sort of longing for, or thinking, oh, I could do a better
No, I never
job
expected.
than Stan Smith, or...
I think that Stan Smith was particularly unlucky. We all know as anglers, and especially match anglers, you've got to have a certain amount of luck. Without that, you're never going to succeed. And I'm not saying that the best anglers are the luckiest anglers, but they have to have a certain amount of luck. And I think Stan's problem was, you look at Ludington. They'd have paralysed Ludington in England had it not been for the rain.
Yeah.
So he was very unlucky there. There was 2 or 3 other occasions as well that I know that with just that little bit of luck going in his direction, they would have won.
Yeah. And 5 seconds, did
That's exactly right.
12 or 13 years.
Exactly. So they were getting something right.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Strangely enough, when I managed to get the job, the first one that we fished was in Switzerland, and we finished second. And we finished second by tying on points and losing out on weight. And I thought, well, is he going to continue this?
Yeah, here we go again. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think Stan was very unlucky, and I think that you do need that little bit of luck as an angler. You can't. Nobody can catch fish if there are none there, and so you take that luck with you, and if you do it right, you're going to win something. And we fortunately we did the second year in, which just shows you that little bit of luck extra, and you're on the podium as well, and with the gold medal rather than the silver or the bronze.
Exactly. Just going back to you as an angler, I mean, do you think you were ever good enough to fish for England yourself? Or?
I'd like to think I was. I certainly won enough competitions. I mean, I won the embassy. I won the first ever televised competition. I've got lots of other things that I've achieved and won,
But Stan never came knocking on your door?
I'll tell you what he did, John. We were in Ireland, and I could never draw on Ireland. When we went to Enniskillen, I could never draw. It was terrible. I think I went 4 years in succession. I went more than that, but in 4 years in succession, and you were fishing 3 matches a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I drew at Corrigan's and our schools, which is the absolutely worst part you could ever go on. I know it's down to sections as well, but weight-wise, you could never compete. And I was there 8 times out of 9. So I'm thinking to myself, this is rubbish, this. And one of the days I've got down there, then I'm on schools, and who's come behind me at the start of the match, just before the start, is Stan. So I thought, I'll show you, Stan, I'll catch some fish here, mate. And I've gone in with a plummet on my pole, and the plummet's got stuck. Oh, well, you've never seen anything like it. And I'm trying to get the plummet back, I'm trying to get my float back and everything. And I finished up having to sort of stand in the water and grab the top of my pole and pull like. I turned around, he'd gone. So he did pick me for the international thing that he used to do in the week once. Because there was they always on one of the days, Tuesdays or Thursdays, there was an international thing, Ireland versus the England versus the people at the forum on the match. Yeah. So no, I don't know. I would have liked to have fished for England, but next best thing, innit?
Yeah. So the appointment, you were up against some quite interesting opposition.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I did think that. I think that basically, I looked at the list of people. I knew who was going, and I looked at the list, and I thought really there was only one person who I thought would get the job if I didn't, and that was Dennis Salmon.
Yeah,
because Dennis was part of Essex County, and they were highly influential, and they were they were winning everything. Just like, but I mean, Barnsley were the same. So it was like, I thought it was 50-50 between the two of us. What I didn't realise, and I'm just, it could have changed the whole aspect of it, that Dennis, he wouldn't fly.
Okay.
So I think that would have, influence the board, because it would be difficult for him to get to certain places. But I think that that made a difference. To be honest, I'd like to think it was my ability or what I'd achieved, but that would be against him, I'm sure. But yeah, and then of course there was Ray Mumford.
Yeah, an interesting character. Ray.
Well, Ray was a particularly good angler. There was Graham Joynt.
Yeah, from Lancashire.
From Lancashire, he was another. I mean, he was a good angler.
He would have known all about Bloodworm and Joe.
Exactly. Yeah. There was Ken Ask.
Yeah, from the Starlets.
Yes. Who was the other one? There was Malcolm Burdett. Malcolm Burdett was, I'm sure, I don't know whether Malcolm went to the interview, but Malcolm Burdett was working with me then as with Barnsley as our PR officer, and he did a great job, to be honest. And who was the other one? Tell me who the other one was.
Oh, I'm not sure.
The other one, I think
we've done them, haven't we? That's it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And it was. I just think that the interview went quite well. So, you come away with a bit of confidence, because I'd done plenty of interviews before and interviewed people. And so I thought to myself, well, I've got a chance here. But I didn't know about Dennis Salmon, and that was basically the only one that I was concerned about, to be fair. Yeah. But Dennis was a very, very good and a good organiser. So that was it, yeah.
Yeah. And so, the first two World Championships were sort of, must be mixed emotions looking back on it. Of course, for those who don't know, am I right in thinking that Bob made his debut in '84?
Yes. Yeah. Well, what I did, I mean, I think that my method of selecting the team and also of managing the team was better than Stan's. That's me, just thinking that. In so much as I thought that you have to look at the big picture. I couldn't start with a brand new team. I had to have experience there, and so I obviously you keep Kevin Ashurst in. Ian Eaps was at his prime as well then, and Dennis and Tommy. I knew of their ability because they were part of my Barnsley setup, because I was still captain at the time.
Got you.
And I stood down. In fact, they asked me to stand down to concentrate basically on this. And Tommy took over as Barnsley captain. I took along Dave Roper because of his bloodworm expertise. Alan McAtee. And I think also it was... who was the other one? Anyway, I selected... it was Dickie Carr.
Dickie Carr.
And they drove to... I don't think it'll tell you in there, will it?
No.
He'll have not put... He's only put the team down.
That's from a bit later. Just going to... Yeah, they've only put the team.
Yeah. Well, there's
Dave in 1985.
That's Alan Mack.
Yeah.
But I took those, and who else did I take anybody else? No, I didn't take anybody else. That was it. And it was like it was when I took Bob, obviously.
Yeah.
And Bob came in because I knew I'd been speaking to Kevin, and I'd known Bob from Ireland, and I thought, right, he's going to be perfect on here, because I'd been out and looked at the venue, which I think is quite important. And so when I came back, it was not going to be an out-and-out bloodworm venue.
Yeah.
So I said to Kevin, are you going to come out with me? He says, no, you can do the job yourself. You're good enough to do that. What do you want me for? Which I thought was a bit ridiculous, really, because I thought to myself, what's he said that for? Why on earth did he come with me? But I know that Kevin was quite a big fan of Stan Smith, And I just wondered whether Stan, whether it was that influence that he didn't want to come along and be, to be seen to be helping rather than, just being part of the team.
Yeah.
Might be just me thinking that,
Yeah.
but, that's what I thought. And it set off all right, and Bob did brilliantly. And we were just, if I think, you see, we've got a photograph here of a guy, Clive Branson, right? Welsh wizard,
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant angler. And Clive, I'm sure it was Clive, he foul-hooked a chub. And that cost us the World Championships. Because if he hadn't have had that, we'd have moved up by another point in the match.
So this was in 84.
And the other thing was, as well was, you could count trout, because there was a limited number of fish in the river, in the waterway in Switzerland, and trout counted. And I know Ian Heaps caught a trout, and that trout that Ian caught was not as big as somebody else's trout. And it was like, and you were thinking, how can we get that other point? How can we get it? Anyway, we finished up losing it, joint on points and losing it on weight to Luxembourg. And Luxembourg have never been in the frame since.
No.
They hadn't been in the frame very often before it either. Because it's a country of like few people, so obviously less anglers to choose from.
Exactly. But they performed on that day. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And, perhaps you were worried that the Stan Smith jinx had already kicked in.
I did, absolutely. Yeah, I thought to myself, well, it's typical, isn't it? Stan's had 5 or 6 silvers, and now, here we are, first one in, silver. How unlucky can you get? And I've said that Stan was unlucky, and I think that was, again, I'm thinking to myself, it's never going to continue, this is it. Please don't. Yeah.
And so we moved to 1985, we're on the Arno in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
History made.
Yep, it was a good match. It was. I'll tell you how we. I think that the one thing that won us the match was Dennis White, who always used to take some red worms with him wherever he went. Didn't matter where he was going, he'd take red worms, Dennis, and those worms got us catching. Lots and lots of catfish, and we there was 2 sections where these catfish were really, really important, and which was the first 2 sections below the bridge, below Ponte Vittoria, the bridge is, and Bob was on a chub area. He didn't do very well, Bob. I think he, how many points did he get? 10? Something like that, 9, whatever.
Yeah, 10.
Yeah, and Tommy won his section on the opposite bank, catching chub. And then below the bridge, it was really deep. And there was Ian Heaps and Dennis. And without the catfish, we targeted catfish in those deeps, because there were basically not as many other fish there. You can imagine Ian with his he's always been good with sliders and things like that, and so we targeted catfish as much as anything, and that definitely won us the championships. I know Tommy won his section, which was brilliant because he was catching. It was spot on for Tommy, fishing a waggler. And then Bob struggled a little bit because he was next to end peg. I think he was next to end. And I finished up with him moving in his peg, because at that time, we still can. You can sit anywhere in your zone. Wherever the lines are, separating anglers to anglers, you can fish anywhere.
Well, I never knew that. I always thought you'd sit in the middle.
No, you can move at any time during the match. And he finished up moving down a little bit. But he got 10 points, and then I think we had Tommy with 1. Dennis and Ian, what did they get? 1 and 2, and Kevin was. Kevin. I'll tell you what happened with Kevin. It was strange. Dave Roper Dick, you've got to come down here. You've got to come down here. I says, what's on? He says, we've got a right problem. He said, Trabuco's fish has gone in Kevin's peg, and we've objected to it. He says, and everybody's creating mayhem down here. So I've gone down. And I got stoned with the people back watching. Yeah, they were throwing stones at us because we were objecting to this fish. Because at that time, if a fish surfaced, it was disqualified.
If it was serviced in somebody else's zone.
And it had done. It had done.
In 1975, I remember famously reading.
Yeah. And it had done. But anyway, it finished up. It didn't matter because we'd won it anyway. We beat them with a point anyway, so that was all right. It was good. But yeah, we got stoned. Dave Roper himself got stoned for objecting. And one of the other managers was there as well, and he agreed. So when we found out that we'd won, it was like, don't bother putting an objection in. But we should have done, because then you set a precedent, don't you, for the following years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so it was brilliant, absolutely. To beat the Italians in Italy and to win the first one it's the best. Even coming back to England later in '94 wasn't, in my opinion, it was fantastic, but it wasn't as good as being
first one.
Yeah.
Absolutely understand that.
And of course, not only did we win the World Championships, but Dave Roper, who was reserve, won the gold medal.
The next day, because in those days, you used to fish the team event on day one, and then the top individuals and maybe the reserves qualified. I mean,
what happened, John, is that every team, to make sure that every country has got a representative in the individual final.
Yeah.
In those days, the Saturday match was 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then every country could nominate an angler.
Yeah.
So I nominated my reserve, who was Dave Roper.
Which was,
right? But also, if you had somebody in the first three in the section, they also could fish.
Got you.
So we'd got 5 anglers fishing in the individual.
Yeah.
And the only one that missed out was Bob.
Yeah.
And so Dave drew on the opposite bank to where I'd said he was somewhere opposite Kevin's area. And he fished Waggler and he won the championship. It was brilliant. And it's not Dave's forte, is it? It's not a preferred method that Dave Roper would have selected.
I would always classify Dave as a northwest canal man.
Exactly.
But it just, to me, and I'm biased, of course, and I'm paid to be biased, but I've always believed that those anglers that grew up on learning to fish on canals can actually turn their hand to pretty much anything. And Ian Heaps and Kevin Ashurst. And Dave. And
I still think, I think that anybody, listen, if you've got a good angler, any good angler can turn the hand, because it's all about here.
Yes.
It's not the difference between somebody being a weightlifter and a sprinter, is it? And or a high jumper. I mean, me and you'll be no good trying to jump high over, wouldn't we?
No.
But the thing is, but as an angler and a thinking angler, it's like one person who would definitely get in the team nowadays for the nations team. The ringers, especially Steve.
Yeah.
Steve would convert. Steve would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it's up here, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. And so Dave Roper was, and I'm just chuffed for Dave, because he was always going to be a fringe angler,
Yes.
Yeah. But when he won that, I was over the moon for him, yeah. Brilliant. Yes. And he's a nice guy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And still fishing.
Yeah.
Well, one for all our Welsh listeners to celebrate is what happened in 1986 when Wales for the first time managed to pip England.
No, they didn't beat us the only beaters. Oh, in Strasbourg, you mean?
Yeah, in Strasbourg.
Oh, yeah. But that was a bit peggy. Dennis never had a fish. It was like you can't. Generally, you can't. I mean, I was just going to say you can't win with a dry net, but you can, because we did in Home Pierpont. But yeah, Dennis Wright never had a fish, I don't think Wales beat us. They might have. Did they beat us?
By one, yes.
By one place?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to say they didn't get on the podium, I know that.
No.
We were 6th or 7th,
England were 7th and Wales were 6th.
Yeah. It weren't a good venue for us. It was like, there was such a big volume of water traffic on. It was like there were barges were so big it was unbelievable, and you'd be sat on the bank, and the wash, not the wash, but the what they call it when it's going past first, it draws water back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Out. Must have been 6, 7, 8 meters of the bottom gone. You could almost fish, or sit and fish where the water receded to. Before it came back again. It was very, very difficult, that, and it was something that I'd never experienced before. I don't think any of our lads had, and that's another thing about it is that, you need to have some sort of practice facility, which has changed now anyway. It's made it better for the team to go and practice these days, because in those days the water was closed for 2 full weeks before the event. So you used to go out to practice if you could, if you've got the finances. And bear in mind, the first 2 or 3 years we were sponsored by Steadfast,
yes,
which is a fishing tackle company that was based in Sheffield, and that was Malcolm Badette's doing. Malcolm got the Stead because I don't know whether he knew them or not, but he contacted them, and Jack Stead, who was one of the directors of the company, he used to come with us, Jack. And he used to really enjoy it, and so did the others. I mean, the other directors were all for it, and it was good that we had it. But going out to practice, coming back home, and then going again, we just didn't have the finance to do it properly.
Yeah. And how about other countries' finances in that sort of era? Were they all in the same boat, or were there teams that were?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I don't know about that. I do know about it now. And since, well, even when I was still managing the teams, there are a number of teams that are part of their own country's Olympic setup, and because they get financed, and so like the Italians, the French, the Portuguese, the Hungarians, I think the Belgians, they're all part of their lottery funded people. I know that Angling Trust get lottery funding, but it's not to be used for internationals in either teams and or events. So you can't get individual sponsorship out of it, you can't get team sponsorship out of it, and you can't get event sponsorship out of it. Other countries, they can, because, well, I don't know. It's just an agreement they have, I suppose.
Yeah, different governments and different priorities.
Yeah.
We moved to 1987, and that was the year that Clive Branson won the individual goal for Wales. Yeah. If he'd have been English, would he have been good enough to get in? Or?
Oh well, this Clive Branson was an exceptionally good angler. It was a venue to suit him, fishing a waggler. The one thing that did happen on that day was that we did qualify. As you know, we qualified, and it was one of the things I had here, because we won the gold that weekend, and I'd already nominated a reserve to fish the championships, the individual one, and all 5 of my anglers finished in the top 3, so we got 6, which is unprecedented because it had never happened before.
Yeah.
So when I've gone to do the sign-in light with the draw and everything, you can't have your nominated angler in the team. I says in the fishing the individual. So, why is that? Well, because you can only have 5. I said, well, where does it say that? Oh, no, you can only have 5. I said, hang on a minute. If there's only going to be 5, that means then that there's going to be a spare peg somewhere, because you've obviously got. No, you can't. I said, I'm telling you, if we don't, we're going home. So I said, if that's the case, we're off. And eventually they decided that, all right, we could have 5, 6 anglers.
6 anglers.
So 6 anglers fished it.
Yeah.
And Clive was I think he was downstream of Kevin. There was a Welsh angler downstream of Kevin. Then Kevin, then Dennis White. And Kevin was very unfortunate because what happened was he hooked a proper fish, a big fish, and he played it for ages and ages, and it snagged him in the bank just about 3 or 4 rod lengths down his peg, and he lost it, and I think that would have done Clive. Because I think this is the things individuals, isn't it?
Yeah, there we are for 87. Yeah. Kevin was second.
Yeah, and had he not been second, had he had that that fish, he would have won it.
Blimey, he was 15 grams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Half an ounce.
And the other thing about it is, again, this is about luck, isn't it? If he hadn't hooked that fish,
he would have won
it because he'd have got another one.
Yeah.
Of a normal size, which would have beat Clive.
Yeah.
So Clive was a bit lucky that day. Yeah.
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 But that's fishing, isn't it?
It is,
pretty
absolutely.
Much every match.
Yeah. But there you are. I mean, look, you've got to look at that. There's Tommy Pickering with 2. So he qualified.
Yeah.
Dennis qualified because he won his section. Ian Heaps was second. Kevin won his section, and Steve was 3rd. Of
course, that was the year Steve made his
debut.
His debut.
Yeah, he was in the downstream end section, Steve. And as I said, it was I think it was in the same section as Milo as well, which was like there were, and I had to stand behind him to make him put this ground bait in because he didn't want to put any in. But if he hadn't have done, we could have not won.
Blimey. And
everybody else went to plan, but he wanted to change it.
If he'd have disobeyed the manager, he may never have fished those 27 consecutive.
I wouldn't say that, but I would have been a bit upset after giving him some verbal. I weren't at the back of the door coming out with some verbals.
You didn't suffer fools then?
No, not really. No. Yeah. But it was good because it was again we won the champion. I mean, over the first 5 or 6, 7 years it was easy. Why was it easy? I think that because first of all I got a good I was looking at like 8, 10 anglers and a horses for courses a bit because I did change it the following year when we went to Belgium.
Yeah, you brought in Vinnie Smith.
Yeah, I did.
Top northwest.
Well, we were on a canal in Belgium, and what do you think about the Belgians? The Belgians, the French, you'd think bloodworm, wouldn't you?
Yes.
So that's why I changed the format because, first of all, Tommy Pickering and Dennis White, I know them from Barnsley, obviously, for all the years that they were there, and we never fished any bloodworm matches.
Yeah.
Bloodworm was the last match that we'd fished. We were going on the Trent, we were going into Lincolnshire. It was never going to be a bloodworm, but this one was. So I thought, right, I'm going to change it. I brought Dave Roper back in.
Yep.
Vinnie Smith, who made his debut. I had Dave Vincent. I think that might have been Dave's first visit as well. Dave.
3 times Camazan Matchman of the Year.
Exactly.
Dave.
Yeah. And then there was I left Ian Heaps out. So I left out Ian Heaps, Tommy Pickering, and Dennis White, and we won it. And the Angling Times had put in. It showed these 3 with an axe in the head. Said they'd been axed, but we won it, which was, as far as I was concerned, was what more can you ask for? It was brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so like in the first 5 years, 6 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we'd won 3.
Yeah, 1, 3 and a second.
And a second. Yeah. You can't get much better than that, can you?
No.
And it was changing as then, because then shortly after it went to 2 days, didn't it? I don't know, it was the following year.
Can we just tell us? Probably in this one. Let's have a look. We moved to 88. Maybe it won't.
No, 89.
89. There we are.
It was 2 days. 89. I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Who was individual?
Tommy.
Exactly.
So Tommy did it in 89.
We got 2 days, and I'll tell you what happened in 89. We didn't get on. The Welsh won the team event in 89, didn't they, in Bulgaria? And what happened was On the second day, the managers were told that you must go on the same coach. There's a coach for managers and stewards and etc. Because we were staying in Plovdiv somewhere, and we had to go to the venue, which was the rowing course. We set off. It was the last coach. But half the managers had gone on the other flaming coaches with the anglers, which was really annoying because they just don't listen. Maybe they hadn't got an interpreter, I don't know, but we had. In fact, our interpreter, strangely enough, was a Bulgarian lady who later became Jan van Schendel's wife. We were told to go on this coach, and when we get going, we've got to go a level crossing. And we had to pull up at this level crossing. It was closed. All the other coaches had gone through, but ours. So I'm on a coach with like half a dozen managers, or 10 managers, 15, whatever there was. When we get there, they've started the draw, and Tommy's drawn for England.
Yeah.
So, which is fair enough. It happened. And Tommy's drawn his own peg. So I said, the only angler ever to do his own peg and win the World Championships. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, that was, and we'd really caught a lot of fish in practice. We went out for a week's practice, and it was so good, it was unbelievable. There were carp everywhere. We were using gallons of maggots. It was, and Steve and Bob were in the, you know, they were in the elements. It was like everything they did. Chuck some bait in, throw some bait. We were actually sat there firing catapults full of maggots in while they were fishing in practice, to keep the carp there in the peg, and they were just catching everything, carp, skimmers, absolutely everything. But then in the day, when it came to the match, there's a walkway bridge across the rowing course, and they drew the other side of it, and it was an area that we'd had some fish but not so many, and it didn't work. And I think it was Bob's worst ever World Championships. God knows where he finished. 20 something, I think, and Steve wasn't too bad, wasn't that far away. Have you got it in here? Does it tell you in here about
where Steve finished himself? Bulgaria.
No, it don't. Is that day one? 14 points.
Individual. Steve was 22nd. Yeah. He got 14 points
and 2 points.
And 2 points on the second day.
So there you are. That 14 points on the first day. That was it. We've gone out. We were out then. We couldn't, because Bob was worse than Steve. So we had you know, it was.
But it just shows
terrible.
Even the great anglers.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's the fascination of this sport at times, isn't it? That anybody can buy a ticket for an open match and draw next to an England international,
right.
And if the England international makes a Horlicks of it and you do everything right, you can.
And then you come away thinking it's easy, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. You know, but it'll happen like one time in every 50 or something.
Yeah,
That's what I suppose keeps the ordinary angler going. Whereas if we run in the London Marathon, we're never going to win it, are we?
No.
You know.
No.
So I think fishing is unique. And, so we moved to 1990 because famous for the man in the white hat. Winning his first World Championship. What do you remember of that year?
Oh, that was in Yugoslavia, when it was Yugoslavia, and we stayed in Maribor. It was particularly difficult because the river Drava is like, it was a huge river, really, really wide. Is it part of the Danube or whatever? But anyway, it was deep. It was rocky. There were hardly any fish there. It was powerful, and from one end to the other, it was a little bit shallower at the top end, where Bob drew, and it was the day I brought Mark Downs in that day, to that competition. And I remember Mark drew below the bridge, but we had a series, a method rather. There were 6 gram, 8 gram floats we were using, round ones. There were no flat floats in those days. Nobody ever heard of them. And we had difficulty presenting the bait. So it was a case of almost, if there's a fish there, you hope to catch one. And we were catching little barbel. The first day, Tommy blanked. He had a fish on and lost. I didn't change it for the second day. He blanked again. So Tommy double blanked.
I guess he's the only England international ever to do that.
You'd think after that I won't pick him again, would you?
Tommy, if you're listening, that's a record. I hope that breaks.
Don't ask him about it.
And Mark Downs may have a record actually, because Mark fished under Stan Smith at some stage in the 70s, and so he went a long time before he made another appearance. That's perhaps a.
Well, I just thought. It was a difficult venue, so it was. I couldn't think of the right team, if you want. It was because I'd never experienced anything as powerful as this river. But on the day we had a tactic there, which there were some crazy rules where you shouldn't impede the natural flow of the river, of the water. So if the water's running that fast, you had to fish that fast, theoretically.
You can't slow.
You can't put the lead on the bottom, right? You could only put 10% on the bottom, so you can't put the lead on the bottom. So, but we were slowing it down as much as we could.
Yeah.
And you can't overshot your float.
Right.
So like normally, if you were going to sit there with the float on, in a powerful stream, you'd probably put 2 or 3 extra BBs, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, and hold it up.
2 or 3 more grams on to hold it up. Well, you couldn't do any of that, so it was very difficult. Bob drew the upstream section, which was not as deep, and he used his pole. I think he had a crazy section shoved up it. But he won the championships there. It was a good performance, really good performance, and that was it. I mean, I was glad to get rid of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was a venue that I wouldn't, because of the lack of fish, and I mean lack of fish. Tommy wasn't the only person to blank. The fact that he double blanked was like, he had a fish on both days and lost them. And because it's just so rocky, it was unbelievable. It was a terrible venue. So I was glad to get rid of it. And so I think we ought to stop talking about it.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, Bob the next year.
Yeah, well,
repeats his performance.
Yeah, the thing is that in the following year we went to Hungary, didn't we? Yeah, we went to Hungary in 91.
91.
Yeah,
yeah.
I just wondered about the Hungarian one. I kept. It was a mistake that I made that year, even though we won it, because Mark Downs was brilliant in practice. The lake there was lots of carp in it. There was lots of roachy things. There was all sorts of fish in it. In fact, during the practice, because we had a practice week, we must have caught about 12 different species. It was unbelievable how many we caught. Sturgeon and all sorts of things. But there was a lot of perch there, and my experience of catching perch, and I mean small perch, short, line to hand, swinging them in. Mark Downs was brilliant. He was the best of the people that were there. But every day I felt that these fish, small fish, perch, are greedy.
Yeah,
they're going to eat up and they're going to disappear. By the end of the week, you're going to catch none. But it didn't work out like that, to be honest. I left him out, and I really should have put him in and left one of the other anglers out. But it worked because we didn't need the if you want the top 3 positions. You could get away with like 1 less or 2 less and things like that. Bob and Kevin. Again, Kevin was silver because he had silver the year before as well.
Yeah.
So Bob's done Kevin twice with the winning it and Kevin second. Kevin were upset about it. He's always doing me. So it was a good match. It was a brilliant match, that one. There was lots of fish to be caught, and that's when I think England are at the best. If there are a lot of fish there, and I don't just mean small fish, but if there are a lot of fish there, quality fish as well, England have always been and always will be particularly good at doing that because they can sort it out, and that's about. I mean, it's like when you're a manager, you literally, you have to analyse and assess all the information that you get, and you've got to try to put a plan together. But that plan comes from those blokes on the bank, because they're the ones that they're catching the fish. They're the ones that know what they're doing, exactly what they're doing. And if you can get people to give the information in meetings, then you know it helps with the whole team. Yes. And I think that's one of the good things that I had. I think that you know, meetings were successful in passing on information within the group.
Yeah. So you all worked as a team.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that was the challenge of bringing new anglers in that you maybe didn't know so well. Yeah. The fact that you wouldn't know whether they were going to be good team players or not.
Well, that's it. Unless you knew them from experience, and it's difficult, that, isn't it, John? Because you've got, like it's the length and breadth of England is a problem. You know, you're bringing people in from the south and having people in the north. You know the people in the north because you compete.
Yes.
And you know how good they are. But when you get like the Midlands and the south, but to be fair, in those days we used to travel quite a lot, and so there were some matches. And the good thing about being successful, by the way, is that we were also getting invitations from other countries to go and compete. And we had a series of going to the Ostellato Canal in Italy with Pesca In, the magazine, Italian magazine. We went 4 or 5 times there to different venues. And it was all good. It was all good for you know, for the anglers, for learning different things, and you know, so that was good about it. But and the fact that Bob and Steve Gardner, he'd already created a relationship with Milo Company, so you've got contacts, and those contacts develop, and it's you know, it's much easier now to get to know about venues. No, I'm not saying it's easier to compete.
No.
But you can get more information now because of the contacts that you've made in those countries.
Yeah.
We'll
move on now to 1992 and the venues in Northern Ireland. One you must have fancied, Dick.
I did, John. I'll tell you. First of all, I had a bit of a problem with this Northern Ireland one, because I was there when the bomb went up in Enniskillen, and it was a bit of a problem for my wife, saying that did I really ought to be going? Because I think I made a few comments on local radio that maybe you know, were a bit strong. But anyway, what happened was the tourist board decided that they would take me out there, so that we both went, actually. And we went around, and she came back with obviously feeling a lot more confident about it being okay. So that was it. We fished the Home International on the venue at Belleek, and we did brilliantly well. There were bream everywhere, really good weights of bream, and so we got a method, and we went out there. But of course, like as usual, it doesn't always fish the same. Different time of year as well. And so it was the year that Dave Wesson won the match. Mickey Thill was third.
Yeah, Mickey Thill. Yeah. Very interesting character, Mickey. One of the World Championship legends. I mean, runner-up to Kevin in 1982 on the New
in Ireland. That's right.
Did you have many dealings with?
Oh, me? Yeah, absolutely.
By the way,
lots of times.
He passed away recently.
I know he did.
Yeah.
No, I had. I mean, when he went to live in America eventually, he used to contact me for different things. Because he was starting to do some making floats and things like that, but yeah, I had a few dealings with Mickey. He was a character. You're right about that. Yeah. And in fact, the day that happened, strangely enough, he got a guy with him from America, and when he got on the podium, this guy sang the national anthem. It was like, you know, and it was brilliant it was good. It went down very well, but we did very well in the Home International. But when it came to the championship proper, we struggled. And Dennis White actually finished up catching a fish with a half a squat, moving down his peg, which is what I've said you can do.
Yeah.
And so Dennis actually evaded a dry net again by catching one of these little things. Yeah, it was like another one to forget about.
Yeah. As might have been 1993, where the English team finished 9th.
Well, that was the day that I reintroduced Dave, wasn't it? When I brought
Dave Harrell
back from the dead.
Yeah.
In Croatia, wasn't it?
Yeah, in Portugal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, it was a good. It should have suited us. It was a good river. There were plenty of fish there, and I took Dave Harrell and Alan Scotthorne.
That was Alan's debut.
And that was Alan Scotthorne's debut.
And the rest history, of course.
Yeah.
Come on to that in a minute.
Yeah, true enough. And Alan actually, it was difficult for me to get him to understand. He wanted to do things. I left him out the first day, as I did with Dave, and he wanted to do things, Alan, that he was trying to make the fish feed the way he wanted them to feed. And I kept saying, Alan, you've got to catch some fish. You're not catching fish doing it where you were doing it. And it was all to do with his shotting pattern. But anyway, I left him out on the first day, and then I changed on the second day, and I did exactly the same thing as I'd done once before. And I left Dennis and Tommy out, and I put Dave Harrell and Alan Scotthorne in. And again, they told me I couldn't do it. Right, you can only make one reserve now because it had changed to a 2-day format.
Yeah.
And the individuals were part of it.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to nominate anybody. And I said, look, it's the same thing as before. If I don't, we've qualified. You've got to have everybody in. And I'm changing 2 names. What's wrong with 2 names? Anyway, the year after, at a meeting that I was a part of the FIPS anyway, we decided that would have to be, you could only nominate one change. But I changed 2.
It wasn't.
Otherwise, we were going home again.
It wasn't in the rules.
It wasn't in the rules
in '93. So
well, it might have been, but they let me go. Let me do it anyway. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was again. I mean, that was the worst of all the. I think I had a 9th and a 7th, and I think apart from that, I think there was.
Yeah. Just going back to Alan, when did you first sort of meet Alan, and when did he get involved with the Barnsley team?
Oh, Alan was. I had a fishing tattle shop in Barnsley. Alan Scotthorne was 13 years of age, and he used to come in the shop. So Alan started with me basically. He caught it. In fact, when he was 13 or 14, he went with his father. His brother was a very good angler as well, there, David, but he didn't continue. But he caught a huge pike, Alan, about 27 pound, I think it weighed, from somewhere down on the Witham near the Bain End, I think, or whatever. And that's when he started, and he was just good from day one. Everything about him was perfect. And he's developed into the world's best, hasn't he? Well, he's got 5 wins. He can't, that's one more than Bob. Yeah, exactly.
So
and the thing about Bob is that of Bob's 4 wins, I've drawn all his pegs for him, and of the first 3 of Alan's, I've drawn Alan's 3 pegs. So I just take a little bit of credit from the individual.
Yeah, you can't beat being good at the drawback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It went. It was
one of those. If you had to pick one to fish for your life. Of anybody that you ever select?
Well, yeah.
What an awful question.
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, wherever he goes, Alan, it's like I've said, he fishes commercials in the summer, as well as normal, natural venues, and he wins there. And it's because the ability to absorb and to change and to do things and to know about fish, they are experts, aren't they? Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah.
And longevity.
And yeah, exactly that as well. Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well, Alan's got to be, what is he now? 55, something like that. 56. So he's qualified for the new vets. team.
Yes, yeah.
Which is 55 to 65. Yeah.
You never know. He might be the first man to win.
Strangely enough, yeah. Well, when I started taking the vets, the veterans teams, I was a bit disappointed in the fact that Bob, who's now decided to go with the vets, said yes and then changed his mind at the last minute, and it left me in a quandary. I was upset with Bob for doing that, but Kevin said no, we weren't interested. And I thought at the time, well, what's wrong with being a veteran? Everybody is getting old.
Only one thing worse than being a veteran, not living long enough to become one, I think.
Well, there you are. Yeah. And it's the same. I mean, every sport that I know, especially with golf, because I play golf, when you get to the end of your career, or when you can't compete, you go into the veterans one. And then you can continue with your lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the same with angling. But anyway, Kevin said no, Bob said yes. Then he said no at the last minute when I was booking the flights. I didn't get to know from Bob. Somebody else told me, so I was upset. That's another story, the veterans thing. But so Alan was 14, perhaps, when he came into the Barnsley team.
Yeah.
Going back to the question that you asked me.
Yeah, and I think he certainly won. He was in the '79 national team, won the gold then.
Yeah.
And I think he will eventually break Billy Lane's record for the most number of national championship medals.
Who, Alan?
Yeah. And he could break Frank Butler's record for the most number of appearances, because he might have missed a few because of World Championship duty where it clashed.
He will have, because we did miss.
Yeah.
We did miss one or two.
And that's quite a challenge for John Essex and I to work out exactly how many medals Alan's already got, But he's already in the top 3.
Is he?
And I think he'll end up breaking all of those records if he, if he chooses to, or short of some, catastrophe or other.
I don't see him getting left out of the Barnsley team in the next few years, but I just think that I'm not, he's been left out a couple of times now in the Andy on the first day or the second day.
Yes.
In the world team, so I don't know how long that's going to last.
No, and you must have had the experience, say, with perhaps with Ivan and with Kevin, of eventually having to leave a true legend out.
Well, I didn't have that with Ivan because I never selected Ivan.
Got you.
In fact, it was one of the things that Ivan used to get onto Malcolm Burdett about. I did use him in the home internationals, but I never invited him in the world team.
In the world champion, yeah.
No, but Kevin Ashurst, I was. I think it might have been at Owen Pierpont, and I said to I was going in to see him. And Mark Addy was with Kevin that time in the same accommodation, and as I got into the room, Mark said, "Oh, I'll go." So he knew why I'd come in, and I said to Kevin, he says, "You don't need to say anything." He says, "I know what you're here for." He says, "And you're right in what you're doing." So he made it so easy for me, and then when I decided that I would step down as manager of the international team, of the nations team, I said I appointed Mark Addy and Mark Downs, and I said I'm just glad I haven't got to tell Bob Nudd he can't fish anymore, or Steve Gardner he can't fish anymore.
Yeah.
So because it's so hard, and even I mean, one of the hardest points is when you're actually deciding out of the 5 or 6 people that you've taken, who you're going to leave out, because all of them are so good, and you have to make the decision right. You're the reserve. It's the worst day of the year for me. Like it is, it was over. And when I was doing 2 or 3 teams as well, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to do it again. No, but you have to do it, don't you?
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
yes.
You shouldn't be there.
Football managers have to.
Exactly.
It's the same in any. In any sport, that whether Wayne Rooney's been left out or whatever, I do think that Kevin, if we'd have selected a team in the 1960s, and of course in those days there was one member of each of the national winning six.
Yes.
And you think, well, Kevin arguably could have fished for England from 1960 right through. And of course then he would have broken, Stevie.
Well, it was that. I mean, the thing is that it was the team. Even that he might not have fished, because I know that Sheffield and District nominated what was his name? At that time, what you're saying is right. The top 6 teams nominated an angler.
Exactly.
And usually what they did is they nominated the guy that was their best performer to fish for England.
On weight.
Right.
Yeah.
And Sheffield and District nominated. Is it in there?
It might have it in here, because Sheffield. The team was Dave Dowcra. This is the 71 team. Dowcra, Frank Howes, Ian Roth, Percy Anderson, Walter Davidson.
No, that's not the year then. But one of the years
Tony Flowers, Norman Hayes, Peter James, Albert Broadway, Kevin Ashurst. That was the 70 team.
No, it was a Sheffield and District member.
Got you.
I'm not sure which year it was. It might have been a late one before the change, because it changed, didn't it? And but they did nominate, and it was.
But there was 6 and 1 which he could have been reserve, and it doesn't tell you.
Oh right, that's it. Oh, maybe so then. Maybe so.
The top 6 teams.
Right.
Nominated.
Yes.
And the manager chose Bernard Donovan was the manager. Appointed in 65.
It could have well have been, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know when he died. I guess he must have died in 71.
But yeah, it was. That's how they used to choose the team, isn't it? With the top 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on now, Dick, to 1994 at Home Pierpont.
Yes.
A venue that wasn't fishing very well, I recall, leading up to the event. But
it was. Actually, Home Pierpont, there'd already been 2 internationals there. There'd been the Europeans and the World Club Championships, I think it had been, and the
Super Cup there as well.
Oh, the Super Cup had been on a few years, but we'd had 2 FIPS internationals, which was the junior, and it was either the World Club and or the Europeans. But both instances, it fished exceptionally well. We also had, I made sure we had, the year before, we had the Home International there, which again fished particularly well. Lots of good weights of roach and odd bream. And so when it came to the World Championships, we obviously monitored the venue, and it had deteriorated so bad. There was that many cormorants, it was unbelievable. It was feast time for cormorants every day. And actually, during the week preceding, the days before, the environmental agency had sent an observer who went there at dawn.
Yeah, because that's when you see cormorants first.
Exactly.
Light.
And he told me that they was counting on the days 110, 120 birds coming onto the venue. Because at Attenborough Gravel Pits, which was notorious, there was a roost there of God knows how many thousand nesting pairs as well. So it was a problem. David Kent and myself had been and had meetings with the people at Home Pierpont. We'd had meetings with the Notts County Council, I think it is, who own the water. And they even came up with the idea of having a boat dragging a thing behind it to colour the water, which we tried. But within half an hour, the water's cleared again, and it was, they were talking about putting dye in the water, and it was no point in stocking it, because if they stocked it, it's just for cormorants, and they couldn't do anything about the cormorants, so we had to take it as it was, which was unbelievable. It was also, I think, the first time that Victor Green had been involved with his show, which he put a show on Pierpont, which. Lots and lots of anglers there, lots and lots of spectators, I don't know, 20, 30,000 people there, I would have thought.
I was one of them. I remember it well.
And there was a lot there, weren't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard, and we just selected a method and stuck to that method. And although we won it, and it's nice to win it, it's not particularly nice when you get criticism from other countries about the venue being, rubbish.
Yeah.
But every time we have it in England, it seems that the venue's rubbish. We've had it like when they had it on the Boer, didn't they, at one time, years and years
66,
ago.
Dave Burfish.
That's right.
Yeah.
We had it at Luddington again in flood. Terrible match.
Yeah. Again, that was nobody's fault.
No, exactly.
Sips agreed the venue, and if it hadn't rained, it would have been a whole different affair.
Exactly. So and it's the same with Northern Ireland. To be honest, we've had the Newry Canal.
Yeah.
Kevin won it with two kilo or something, didn't he? Or £2, whatever it was.
£2.
Little weight.
Yeah.
The same with the urn at Belleek.
Yeah, the Newry Canal these days fishing. Fantastic.
I know it is. Yeah. It's been very good. So but winning it in your own on your own patch is brilliant, absolutely. And it's although the first one I think is still my favourite because it was my first major triumph in as being manager. That obviously is a close second. Because the afterwards the ovation that we got, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the fact that Bob again is world champion, brilliant, absolutely. So who was it? Who somebody dry netted? Was it Kim? We had a dry net, didn't we, on the first day? But it was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. So, it was, as far as I'm concerned, it was...
My memory of it is Steve was struggling and was fishless. And I can't remember whether it was the first day or the second. And I believe I'm right, you came along and at that moment, his float went. And
and I probably turned round, didn't I?
Yeah. I mean, how did you magic that one out?
Oh, no. No, it's like... you just think to yourself, make sure it don't come off. It's got to stay on. It's got to stay on. And there's nothing that is just one of them things. We just found that by sticking at doing it at one time, you were going to get a bite.
Yeah.
I mean, they even did a fish sound thing throughout the lake, and there were some fish there. And strangely enough, I went back only a few years ago now, and there's the same number of cormorants there. I counted them I drove around the lakes. We went to see. They've got some new owners of the water. It's still county council, but another company had got them. We went to see the MD to ask him about the possibility of using it as a fishery again. And they have finished. They've said no more fishing now.
Got you.
But I counted 130 cormorants. It was really, really bad.
Yeah.
So these. It was just on the day, and that week was fantastic. Yeah.
So after the triumph at home Pierpoint, you were off to Finland for the 1995 event.
Oh yes, we were, John. Yeah,
up near the Arctic Circle somewhere.
Yeah. It was. It was all right. It was a good experience. It was a nice venue, to be fair. It's a canal that runs from Finland through into Russia, and in fact, when we went there, Ken Ball finished right up at the borderline because he'd missed a turn off. It's about right for Ken that as well. Yeah.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah. But it was a venue that was it was very interesting. I was disappointed not to get a medal there. And there is one thing that listen, Kim Millicent. I'm going to mention Kim because Kim was a particularly good angler. Kim, he was the best listener in the world. He wasn't very forthcoming with any of any of his tactical decisions, etc. But eventually, he was a brilliant team player. But he was 4 to 5 years getting there. But I kept him in the team because he was a good angler, a really good angler. Yeah. And it disappointed me. I'll tell you why. Because we'd worked out that we'd spend a few days practicing off the venue. which was relevant because it was the similar kind of fishing. There were more fish in the other place that we fished, but it gave us a good insight. And we found out that by fishing an amount of joker, we could catch fish, lots of fish. And after the first, we got, I think it was, I'm just not exactly certain how much joker we were going to use, but it was something like, whatever the limit was, we took that with us. We weren't going to use it all, but we were going to feed it quite heavily in the ground bait. And the ground bait, we'd set off, and each day after the first hour, we were paralysing the match. We caught more fish than anybody. At the end of the second hour, teams had caught us up because we'd slowed down.
Yeah.
At the end of the third hour, we got past by a good number of teams. We didn't finish 6th or 7th or something like that. Where we finish?
4th in the hour.
Well, we're just out of the medals anyway. Yeah. And do you know what happened? We fed too much joker. So fish, as fish are, immediately it was there, they were into it, boom, 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 boom. But then it slows down. And I remember once on the Trent, I was next to a particularly good Trent angler, and he said to me, he says, "You've fed too much," because I was absolutely emptying it for the first hour. Second hour weren't too bad, third hour was rubbish, fourth hour never had a bite, fifth hour never had a bite. And it was Ted Stokes, and he says, "Dick," he says, "you've fed it the same as me, but you've fed too much too quickly." He says, "Those fish come in, they're ravenous, they eat the stuff, they fill up, they've gone. And you don't catch the whole shoal of them." And we did exactly the same in Finland. We'd put too much feed in the first hour. In the initial, we'd put too much in. And after the match, and it was after the match as well, it was like, we were talking about it, and Kim Milson was the only one who'd fed it frugally. And I said, "Hang on, Kim, that's not the tactics that we decided on." He says, "I know, but I thought they were wrong." Well, as it happened, he was right. But he'd not fished to the tactics, and I thought, what's that all about? You know, we have a decision, we have a meeting, we have meetings, we've been here, and if he'd have known that was going to work, why didn't he come out with that and talk about it? And he never did.
No.
And he was our best performer.
Yeah.
That week. No, it weren't because he was shy. No. And he got the name. He finished up getting the name of Probably. "Are you fishing on the bottom, Kim?" "Probably." "Are you catching on single or double bloodworm?" "Maybe." It was like he would never commit himself. And he upset one or two people. He upset me, but not to that extent that I was going to leave him out because I knew how good he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, when he got left out, when he decided to stop fishing, it was unreal because like he hadn't been left out the team; he'd only been left out the Europeans.
Right.
And he decided that was enough because he said, "If you can't pick me for both, I don't want to fish for one." I said, "Hang on a minute," because I spoke to him for a long, long time afterwards. And he wouldn't, and it wasn't my position that because I'd already given the job up to and appointed Mark Downs and Mark Addy, and it was their decision to leave, to leave him out of the Europeans.
Possibly to give somebody else a bit of experience.
That's exactly right. Because at that time, where you could use some experience with the home internationals, I'd stopped using it because I'd stopped going because we won every one. In the 18 years that I was in charge, 17 years I was in charge, apart from one, we won every one. It was too easy. You know what I mean? Yes. It was just too easy. No disrespect to the other nations, but they hadn't got the strength in depth that we had, and it was because we did talk about changing the numbers, changing the format, all sorts of things to make it more, of a competition. But Kim was, he was like, "Why on earth didn't you tell us, Kim?" Because we did it wrong.
Yeah.
But we did it wrong for that reason. We just caught too many fish too quickly and fed it all wrong. You could keep feeding by all means, but not with the amount of joker. Yeah. And we did. We continued because it was like we were winning it. Yeah, we were. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the next year was the first of Alan's 3 victories on the trot. What do you remember about that match?
The first one that Alan was involved in the medals, that weren't it?
Yeah.
He doesn't have silvers and bronze, does he?
No,
He
you're
only
right
has-
about that. He hasn't got any silvers or bronze at all.
He only has gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that was in 98.
be 96.
Was it? No, wait a minute.
96 did.
96.
First time, yeah.
Yeah, they're actually going this year again on the Mincio. I think it's. I think the World Championships are on the Mincio. It's a strange river. It was brilliant. It was a method river, and it was a bait method river as well. And Alan did it brilliantly. He did it better than the Italians. It was a river. It comes out of a lake. I think it's Lake Garda that it comes out of. It's one of the lakes anyway. It's red hot, this river. We went swimming in it once. We'd been there a couple of years earlier with Mario Molinari took us there. It was after the World Club Championships that we fished in Bologna with Barnsley. So it was a few years earlier, a good few years earlier. It was absolutely solid with bleak, but there was also barbel and narza and other things. And they were using all kinds of different baits. They were using black casters, sticky casters. They were using wasp grub or some sort of moth chrysalis and all sorts of things like that. And what you had to do is, the river bottom, there were small areas of like maybe a metre where there was no weed, but the rest of it was like two foot of weed. And they even used metal wire mesh boxes, containers, to put ground bait and chrysalis in. And the chrysalis that they were putting in were black casters, sticky casters, which float.
Yeah.
And what you did to catch the fish was bolognese was the best method in most areas. And you used to, with the bolognese, you used to instead of like you'd mend it, if you got a river going right to left, you'd mend it like sort of that way, upstream. You didn't do that, you mended it the opposite way around. And what it did, it lifted the caster, your bait, off the bottom long enough to be like running over the top of the weeds.
Yeah.
And the casters were coming up through, the floating casters were coming up through. And what happened was we were practicing it, and I said to Mark Addy came to me and he said, have you seen how they're doing it, the Italians? I says, no, why? He says, well, they're doing it totally different to us. I said, well, let's go and have a look. So I went and had a look. I said, right, get them all to come down one at a time. I want them to see what's going off. Because this is when they were alternate mending it to what we were doing. And it worked. And Alan fished an absolutely fabulous match, and he won it, which was brilliant. Bob caught on caster, on pole, and the others, it was just a mixture of bits and pieces. But we were never going to beat the Italians. And what happened was, during the match and after the match and during some practice times as well, the locals were coming down the bank nicking all your bleak. Because they took them home, don't they? For the pot.
Yeah.
I think they must be their local whitebait, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I just think, I thought, well, these bleak will disappear. Oh, there's millions of them. Absolutely millions of them. But it was a good match. And they're on again this year. Now, whether it's going to fish the same, I've no idea.
No.
But Mario Molinari, when he took us on there in the practice, in the previous time, I says to him, he's got a bleak whip out, and I said, Mario, you can't catch bleak at that depth. And he says, watch this. And he started at 3 foot, he went to 6 foot and finished up at 8 foot. And he was still catching at 8 foot deep, 3 a minute. There were that many bleak there. Wow. You've never seen as many bleak. There was absolutely millions of bleak. But as the week went on, as well in the match week, they disappeared slightly. But the people that could do it properly were still able to get a good weight.
Got ya.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the following year, Alan repeats the feat.
That was Hungary, weren't it?
In Hungary in '97 at
Valence.
Indeed. Team silver.
Yeah, we should have won it. It was a good match. Lots of different fish, big fish. In fact, it was one where they call them lost-a-lots in this venue, because they were that they used to come up, catch a fish, and it used to just bust you because they were that lost-a-lot. But yeah, it was Alan's run then, weren't it? Yeah, he was again fished very, very well. Yeah, it was just it was at that time. I think it's more difficult now for him to change, but at that time, it could change instantly and do something to catch fish.
Yeah.
Now I'm not sure now, because I think as you get older, you don't do that as quickly as you should. You tend not to, I am anyway. I blame myself for that. You start off a method. You catch a few fish and you stick at it too long, because when they've disappeared, you should be changing, looking at something else. But they'll come back.
You probably haven't learnt anything from me, Dick, in these interviews so far, but and doubtless you won't remember that I was managing a team in the 1998 World Championships, and we didn't push you close. Mickey Thill invited me.
I know. I do remember that.
You do remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
And I'm ever so grateful to Bosnia-Herzegovina and a couple of other nations for avoiding last place. But two things I remember particularly about the 1998 World Championships in Croatia was obviously Alan's third victory on the trot.
Yep.
But also Will Raisin made his debut that year.
Yep. Well, he did, and it was following on from the year that I took him to Portugal in the Europeans. It was the time when I actually I was going to leave out. I took Will, and I was going to leave out Steve Gardner, would you believe, on the second day, and Will said no, I'd like Steve to fish in my place, which disappointed me, because I thought that it's the Europeans, and the Europeans are at that time were it was the place where you could learn and go through international experience, because it's the same rules and everything. And I thought, why have you done that, mate? And all right, it was a young lad. I'm not sure how old. I think we talked about that before. I think
20s,
he must have been maybe 21, 22, 23, something like that. But he was obviously he fulfilled his potential, didn't he, in the years to come after that. Yeah.
Yes.
But it was the first year for Will. That
I think he drew next to Desquet, the great French angler.
He did, and he battered him, catching bleak.
Exactly what I remember, and I thought, well, this lad is definitely for real.
He is. That's right. Yeah.
You don't.
It was a great performance, that, because John Desquet is obviously a fantastic angler. But Will, I mean, I was there at the back of him for most of the time, and he just continued to catch bleak, and it was like, don't go for anything else, and he's going to beat, and he did do it. He beat John. Yeah.
Superb.
Yeah, but he fished short line, and it was a good. It was. I don't think he fished too long. I think it was about 8-9 meters, something like that. But it was a very, very good exhibition of short line bleaking. And to say how old he was, was a marvellous performance. Yeah. And since then he's got. I think he's got any better.
We'll tell him that. We move on to 1999, and Mr. Nudd's back with a fourth victory. What do you remember about that match?
I remember that I had a problem making him do what I needed him to do. But we fished again. We had a practice session. You're going to think about as well, which has not been mentioned at all, that throughout my career, the format changed. First of all, we were sponsored by Steads for an amount of money, about £6,000, I think. And then along came Peter Drennan, who has been the most fantastic person ever, and company for sponsorship. With the well, you know, it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So I was disappointed when that sponsorship came to an end. But throughout the time, we've not mentioned the fact that those sponsors have helped considerably with the success of the team, and will still do so. But obviously now that the Drennan contacts, it's never going to be, I don't think, unless there's something in the pipeline. I don't think there's anybody ever going to be able to spend that kind of money on promoting the team. Whether it's worthwhile or not, I don't even know that. But yes, but Bob, we went to Spain for Bob's 4th. Oh, by the way, before that as well, you know the 2 World Championship trophies that we've got, the individual one and the World Championship trophy.
Yeah.
The World Championship trophy was given by the NFA.
Yeah.
And it's still there, used. It's a perpetual one.
I didn't know that.
The individual one was given by Ireland until Alan won it 3 times, and then he could keep it. So then Peter Drennan decided, right, if that's the case, I'll give you another one. So Peter went to some archive somewhere of a silversmith, and he got an individual trophy. So that's another thing that Peter Drennan did, although not to us, but to the to Phipps.
Yeah.
So it's been a worthwhile sponsorship. So yeah, so Bob on the Castellón Canal in Spain, comes out of a lake, quite quick, bit of fluctuation in depths and speed, and we'd caught these carp. The carp averaged like £3, I think, but anything from 2 to 3, 4, 5 pound. It was always going to be difficult. Spain have never had a good international record. Unless it was like to do with big fish in their country, and it's still the same. We were catching these fish, and Alan was in the team at the time, strangely enough. And Alan considered that these fish were going to be caught at 13 metres. So I said, oh, okay, then fish 13 metres. This is in a practice match. Then he couldn't catch anything. So I'm glad at least we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
And a lot of these fish were caught on the stones, 4, 5, 6, 7 metres out. It was all rocky, stony, and Bob was. I just kept saying, Bob, you've got to do it what we said. Do what we said, which was to fish. As I recall, it was like feeding more, but fishing that line closer in, and he eventually he caught well, and just downstream of him. You could see that the Spaniard, one of the Spaniards, and somebody else were also catching very well. I'm not sure who finished 2nd and 3rd in that one, to be honest. But yeah, that was Bob's swan song, almost.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And I was glad for him because, you know, nice guy. Why not? And then the year after. Which was the 2000 was the first of the World Games, which was held in Italy. So we got during that week we got the ladies, the vets, the vets, the disabled. What else have we got? I think we have the youth team. I think we might have had the youth team there, and the nations one. And we fished on the Arno again, and some of the others were on different places. It was a time of when I thought to myself, because I did all the organising for all the teams then, and booked everybody in and sorted it. And it was a time when I was getting a bit out of love with it, I think.
Well, you'd done
with fishing even at the time.
Done 15 plus years, haven't you?
Well, I'd done 17 years.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, right, enough's enough. I think it's time for me to stand down, get somebody else to do the job, but still to look to be the overlord, if you want, so that they are responsible back to me, and I'm responsible then to the NFA. And which is so that's what I did. And we had a decent carry on the in 2000. I think did Will finish up with a medal?
Let's have a look.
I think
he won the silver.
Yeah, I think he got the silver. Yeah. And then, so when we came back, I said, right, that's enough's enough. And I appointed Mark Addy and Mark Downs to do the job. Mark Addy had been helping me anyway. Well, Mark Downs had occasionally, depending on where we were going and what we were doing. And then, of course, that was my final year with the nations team. And I think I was justified in doing what I did because the year after in Paris, they won it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a bit controversial because, like, some of the people were saying, some of the media were saying, it won't work, it won't work. To people, well, it did work. Because basically you've got Mark Downs doing the organising of the registration and all the travel and the arrangements that way and running team competitions. And Mark was tactically very, very good on the bank, and he always has been, he always was. And you can't win as an individual. Although in the early days I didn't have anybody doing that, I relied on reserves to help. And it was successful. I did realise that as it gets, as it was getting slightly bigger, because I don't know how many there were in 28, I think, teams, and on 2 days you need more than one person. You can't, one person can't run it, and so you need to have some good help. And those two people together worked very well until Mark Addy decided he'd had enough as well. Yeah.
Just very briefly on the 2001 match. You had Stu Conroy and Sean Ashby making their debuts.
Yeah.
Were these two anglers that you'd used at the European Championship level previously?
Yeah, but not in a World Championships,
No.
and I'd not selected them. But obviously, Mark had different ideas. He left out, and this was the year, by the way, where Kim Milson fell out of fishing because he'd been left out of the Europeans and selected for the world, and he thought it was wrong, that.
Interesting.
Which is strange because, you want to be in one and not the other. And if you're going to be in one, you're going to be in the World Championships, aren't you? Not the Europeans.
Yes.
And it was the Europeans he'd been left out of. I spoke to Kim for at least an hour on the phone, trying to get him to change his mind, asking him why he'd done it, etc., etc. And he said he didn't agree with the management's decision. And then I spoke to Peter Drennan, and Peter also had a word with Kim, and it didn't make any difference. He decided that was enough, and that was what he was going to do, and that was it. And he hardly ever went fishing again, did he?
No.
Basically packed up all together.
One wonders what might have been. He could have been a multiple world champion.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
So you've managed other teams, Dick, as well as the World Championship men.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about you.
Well, because as I said, I was responsible for all the teams. I don't like to see a competition where England aren't involved, because we're if we're not the biggest nation angling wise, we're certainly one in the top three. I look at it and I think to myself, there's Italy, France, and England with the most competitors and competing at the world level. We should be in every type of competition.
Yeah.
It's one reason why I put a lure team in, a carp team, also the disabled team. And in 1999, the first disabled team was in Belgium, and I went on that as manager. We finished in bronze. There was only about 8 teams, I think, 9 teams, but there always is. At the start of some of these competitions, it gets stronger when people realise it's going to be better. Yeah. And then we finished third, and then Alan Bates took over, I think it was. And so I left it then until recently, about 5 years ago, I think it was appointed. No, it weren't. I'll tell you when it was. When we had a world championships. I finished up with John Whedon taking over, and John's run it brilliantly since then.
Yeah,
he's absolutely doing a fantastic job, John. And more power to his elbow. But then I did the ladies. I appointed Tom Pick with the ladies, and he looked after the ladies. But then in '97, I went with the ladies to Portugal. Portugal has been the best country ever for any international team. You know, England-wise, we've won all sorts of things in Portugal. Absolutely been a tremendous venue. And we went to Portugal at Penacova, and it was absolutely brilliant. We were fishing for what did they call the fish? I forgot what they called the fish now. Anyway, we were catching these little roachy types, daisy things, and it was perfect. And we won the gold. Wendy Locker won the individual, and I think it was not Sandra. Sandra's Jack Purchaser's daughter was the bronze. No, Linda. I think she was third, but that was the first one. And then the second year we went to Italy and fished on the Arno downstream of the normal match lengths. It was in a big bay. It was another fabulous fishery. In fact, it was that particular fishery where the bait limit was imposed, because the Italians had got so much joke. It was unbelievable. There were great big fish there, catfish, carp, mullet, everything. And they used 3 kilos of bloodworm, of joker, and you've never seen it. Every peg the Italians had, it was like a jacuzzi.
Yeah.
So they decided after that it was not feasibly possible. It was not financially possible for some teams to compete. So we have to put a limit on these things, and that's what we did. Then we went to Romania, and in Romania we Jill Foy won the individual, and Wendy Lithgow was silver medalist.
God, yeah. That's Frank's daughter.
Frank's daughter, yeah. So we had 3 good years there, and I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, I had one session where, especially in Romania, where they had no idea, some of them, how to throw ground bait in. They were throwing it like at 9 and 10 metres, and there'd be one going at 20 metres up in the air and landing about 3 metres short. One would be 3 metres to the left, one to the right, one past it. It was unbelievable. But we got them, and Dennis White had Jill Foy, actually, because she was from Barnsley, Jill, and Dennis had taken her under his wing, and he got her down on the playing fields, throwing balls of ground bait and making sure that she could throw it, and she was brilliant. So that was a fabulous session that I had with the ladies, and then I went with them to South Africa later on, when Dave Brooks, when I told Dave Brooks he could take over. Dave Brooks and myself and Joe Roberts went with them to South Africa. That was fantastic. But that was not part of me being manager. I was just going. I was like overseeing, and I looked after all the travel arrangements and things.
This recently, when?
No, this was. Let me think. How long ago will that be? It's got to be at least 10, 12 years ago. That.
Because Kaylee Smith got the bronze. Again,
no, that was in the. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That was a couple of years ago, weren't it? When they. No, it was before that.
Yeah.
But then I looked after the veterans, and I started. And bearing in mind some of these competitions, I was part of the FIPS committee, the technical committee that started them, and this is one of the reasons why, I want everybody to take part.
Yeah.
Even with the lure fishing team, there was a lure fishing team, and I thought, well, why not? We've got lure fishing people in England. Let's go for that. And so we did that, and Mike Skippers took the first one. Exactly the same with the carp, but with the veterans at that particular time, because there's 2 age limits, which is a bit strange. I don't agree with that. It's 55 to 65 and 65 to 75, and I said, hang on.
What about you then, Dick?
Listen, I was on the committee. I can tell you that much now, and I must have had half an hour debating this, and I said, hang on, there should be no upper limit.
Yeah.
Because if a person is physically able, they should be there. But one of the things that they came back with was, insurance-wise, you get people of a certain age and it's difficult to insure them. And I said, hang on, everybody that's coming should be insured personally, not by the organising committee.
Okay, but
you would insure yourself, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
So there should be no problem. If I want to pay extra, then I should be able to compete. But so you can, but it's not part. It doesn't say that on the entry form.
Okay.
It says 75, and anybody older than 75 can still go. It's daft, really. They should not do that.
Well, yes. I mean, with Donald Pearson, of course, recently passed away. He competed at 90 in the Division 2 National last year, and there was no reason. No reason why not.
Well, he used to come with the vets, didn't he, Donald, with Addy Lodge every year.
Yeah, Donald and his son both fits the Veterans National, which is, I think they're the only father and son to do that.
Yeah.
But, some good angles.
It's one of the things that I thought about with the veterans, to be honest, John. When I started with the veterans and said, right, we're going to put a team in the vets, I was surprised that the likes of Kevin and Bob and others who qualified, because it was 60 years of age then, why don't they want to fish? They would be the first people to have won it with the nations and then the first and the vets. That's another record, isn't it, surely?
Well, yes. Very much like golf, isn't it?
Well, it is. But I thought to myself, is it because they don't want to be known to have got to that particular age? Be one of the pensioners as such. But in 2008 we went to Portugal on the river, again on the same. It's a venue that's been used, I think, with the youth team, but it's so in the north of Portugal. This one. And it was a barbel thing, and you were catching barbel shallow, feeding. Kenny Giles, I took Ken Giles, and Dickie Carr. In fact, I got Dickie Carr to sing the national anthem because I forgot to take the flag and the tape.
Well, that would have been interesting.
Did
he get the word?
Yeah,
did he come out with some...
He knew the first line. I said, you've got to sing the national anthem, Dickie, because we ain't got... Well, I forgot to bring it, the tape. And Mark Addy won the gold, and I think we finished bronze with the team.
Yeah.
But it was, again, there was either 8 or 9 teams, that's all. It was a nice little venue. Yeah, and it just continued. It just developed from then. We went 3 or 4 years without winning it. In fact, 9, 10, 11. 9 and 10 we finished with silvers, and then again at the Penacova in Portugal. So it's another Portuguese one.
Yeah. And
the same with that the one in 2015. That was Portugal. We went to Penacova and Joe Roberts won the gold. And we won the gold as well, and that was a brilliant match. Again, catching these Borger, which is what they are. But we used a locals ground bait on that. I mean, one of the things is, and I haven't mentioned it, is that during my time we've had 2 sponsors of ground bait. Early doors it was Van der Nijn, but after that it was Census, and Census have been absolutely fantastic in supplying ground bait all over the Europe. For us, whichever we wanted, free of charge, which is a huge saving.
Yeah.
It's almost as good a sponsorship as the Peter Drennan one, because transporting ground bait and getting what you want on site is, terrible in some countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then again in 2015 we won gold, and that was again in Portugal, and that was in Calcinea. Calcinea, and Mark Downs won the gold. So we've had a very successful, and I'm still going with the disabled, with the veterans. Hopefully, I'll be there, but I'm going with the disabled if I go this year.
Got you with Johnny Whedon.
With Johnny Whedon, yeah. But so all in the same place, because the veterans now and the disabled, the two types of veterans and the disabled are all in the same country at the same time. Yeah. And this year it's in Slovenia, which is a nice venue. I went on the ladies to this particular venue. It's good. Yeah. So that's about my life story with this.
Yes, I mean, let's say somebody's sort of looking to retire and they haven't fished for years, and that there are loads of people like that, you know, life has just taken over, they've got married, they had kids, and they're looking to get back into fishing. Any advice for people to get?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know. I think it's a pastime that you don't have to be. If you don't want to be going, it's like any other sport. If you want to be at the top of your sport, then you've got to spend the time, the money, and the effort, and otherwise you won't succeed. But if you want to go just being pleasure fishing, getting out in the country, enjoying the you know what there is there, the environment, then angling's as good a way as any. And the good thing is that you've got a choice now. 30 years ago there were no commercial fisheries. Nowadays you've got commercial fisheries where you've got basically fishing shops on the bank in lots of cases, cafes, etc. And or you can still go on the natural venues, which I'm glad to say are making a comeback now. There is more and more people going back to natural venues, which is a damn good thing. Because I thought that when I stopped going on the River Trent, I had a lot of success on the River Trent. I thought that when the chub explosion finished, and that's when it happened, when you know the catch rates disappeared, the roach disappeared. I never expected it to get back to the stage it is now. I'll be honest, and it is brilliant all the way down, including the tidal. So yeah, it's you know, anybody that wants to start going fishing again, get out on the banks, by all means, and enjoy it. Yeah,
and for younger anglers looking to take their fishing seriously and thinking, oh, well, you know, maybe I could fish for my country, whether that's England, Wales, Scotland, whoever. What advice would you give to a youngster, to a teenager?
What I do think, John, is that it's not as easy these days to because of the problems that you've got with the younger people. You've got to be registered as a you know, through the system. But if you can get basically, if you just, you know, are you saying just starting fishing or wanting to get forward?
Wanting to move forward. I think, once you've perhaps you've even been to a few Let's Fish events and you've caught a few fish and you actually think, oh, I'd love to become the best angler I can. You know, would you focus on one venue, or would you try and get like a range of experience?
I think you need to spend some time becoming a venue expert, but then you can branch out. You need to spend a couple of years, I think, doing one thing, or one venue, but a venue that is giving you a range of things to do, in my opinion. And that way you can, and you also need to get tied up with some better anglers if you can. Join a club. Don't just join a club. Single one out. Find out who the good anglers are and try to get involved with them. Because generally these days, information is passed quite freely. In the olden days, when I was first started, it was like trying to draw teeth, weren't it? Getting information from some people.
Oh yes.
Well, nowadays there's more and more information available. But I think that anybody that wants to attain a high standard, then that's what you should be doing. Looking at other people, trying to get involved in a good team, and you know, and developing from that. But be prepared to go to different places once you've established yourself.
Brilliant.